So we're told by Neville and by Scripture that sin is missing the mark. Sin is to miss my mark. And that's why I said when we go inside of ourselves, we are the archers, the true archers of life, are the dreamers, the ones who are imaginative. They go inside themselves and they have to hit their mark. When I was a child, I was taught how to use a hammer, and when I missed the nail, I hurt my thumb. Or when I would eat food, if I missed my mouth, I would bite the fork and hurt my teeth. And so when I miss the mark, I injure myself. So I have to hit my mark. I don't care what the mark is. I have to hit it inside myself. That's what sin is. And we're told by Neville that Christ, really by Scripture, that Christ came to save us from sin. And so when I go inside myself, I must identify myself with a goal. I must give myself the goal. And I must hit that goal. So I don't go within myself and try to make anything happen. I look for my goal inside and I hit it. So find your mark that you're trying to hit and hit that thing by becoming that thing. Now, the difficulty is when you practice this is the discipline of it. And the discipline is the persistence of faith. It's can you stay loyal to the mark that you just hit? Can you stay loyal to it despite circumstance, despite what was said today, despite anything in the world? Can you remain loyal to that imagined self? That's faith. I'm going to read what Neville says here. He says, first of all, I find that the lighter one treats it, the better. I assume that it's done and make no effort to make it so. I'm living by faith. By faith, all things were made. As we're told in Hebrews 11, it is by faith. So if I really believe the thing is done because I imagined it done, believe in the reality of my imaginal act, well then, the lighter I treat it, the better. If I make a problem of it, it's the lack of faith. I'm almost confessing the absence of faith. But to treat it lightly, in confidence, then it will. But if I make it a problem, well then, I make it a difficult thing. So by faith, I create my world. Faith in what? Faith in what I've imagined. That is how I create myself. That's how I create my world. That's how I create all things. Do I really believe that? That is by my faith. Well, what's faith? It's the assurance of things hoped for. The assurance, the knowing of things imagined. It's another way of saying it. And so I must save myself from my own sin. I don't like who I am. I don't like what I'm doing inside. I don't like who I'm being. Then I must save myself. There is nothing to save but I am. That's what I'm redeeming. And I will persist in I am. And what I persist in, it will start to come about. Just like I'm giving birth to myself in this world. It will start to come about. And so I'm an actual womb. And I give birth to myself over and over and over again. My imagined self. And so the difficult aspect of this practice is persisting in your faith. Staying loyal, regardless of external circumstance. Regardless of the pressures of life. Regardless of anything outside of you. Can you remain faithful, loyal to what you've imagined? Can you redeem yourself from sin? It says the Son of Man is given the right, the power to forgive sin. So I must see it as I'm forgiving myself when I redeem myself. I'm actually forgiving. So when I'm in a state I don't want to be in, I forgive myself for being in that state. And I move into a different state. So it's a continual forgiveness of sin. Now, sin in this case does not mean drinking too much alcohol. It has nothing to do with the outside. It has to do within. So what is your mark that you're trying to hit within yourself? What are you trying to be? And if you aren't it, you're living in sin. You're not actually redeeming yourself. And so I have a video called Imagination plus Faith. These are the two things by which I create my life out of. I'm believing in something. I'm assured in something. I have faith in something. And it's something within my imagination. It has to be within me. So I don't need to go outside of myself to put my faith into something, some external power to redeem me of my sin. You see this all the time. People go outside of themselves to change themselves. And they run into a wall. And that wall is themselves. We do not receive a different state of mind until we've imagined ourselves to be in a different state of mind. You see how it's forgiveness now. Because you might come up with all the reasons. In my recent live stream, someone said that I don't feel like I deserve anything. And I said it's not about deserving. If you still think in terms of deserving, and you can't really figure out when you do deserve something because it's all made up anyways. If you think in terms of deserving, you will never really forgive yourself. You're always going to come up with a reason why you don't deserve it. Something from the past, something that you said, something that happened. And Neville said, don't spend time thinking what is wrong with me, or else you'll find all these things. Spend time becoming the thing you want to be. Spend time hitting your mark. Spend time living a righteous life, which is to have faith, which is to live by faith. That's what it means to be righteous. So living righteously is not anything to do with the outside. Living righteously is bringing to reality the dreams that are within me. And the way you do that, the way you make a dream, and when Neville says you bring all the tones of reality to it, it's that you bring feelings to it. So imagine this. Does not Sunday feel different than Thursday? If you really feel that out, you'll see that they feel different. These things feel differently. A baseball feels different than a tennis ball. And I don't just mean physically. I mean, it literally feels different. It looks different, yes, but it feels different as well. And you start to add these feelings to the imagined scene. So you imagine hearing good news. What does good news feel like? What is it receiving what you want to feel like? What is being what you want to feel like? You might feel like relief. You're no longer in that state that you once were. And so when you start thinking about terms of deserving, you're not going to forgive yourself. And when you see in terms that you're the being behind the state, you can just move into a different one. And the difficulty, the difficult part of it is remaining loyal to it, despite everything. Despite everything. As Neville said, I don't care what they said. I don't care what someone said. I'm remaining loyal to my imagination. I'm remaining loyal to it. That's all I have to know. All I have to know is my imagination. I don't need to know anybody else. I just need to know Christ, the one who saves me from sin. I mean, you'll really see it yourself. But it's an act of forgiveness. It's an act of mercy, not of deserving. And many people have come to me and have said, but I fall out of the state that I want to be in. I fall out of it and I put myself into the old state that I just left. What do I do now? Just move back into it. Be loyal to it. Don't give up on it. It's the imagined you. And so you don't have to feel like you lost all your progress. It's really not about your progress. It's about your loyalty. It's about your faith. Again, faith is loyalty to the unseen reality. That's all that matters. Can you remain loyal to it despite your doubts? Despite the circumstance? Despite your own negative thinking? Despite you falling back? Despite what you heard? Despite the rumors you hear? Neville said if you just allow these things to move you, if one rumor sways you into leaving the state, leaving your loyalty, leaving your faith, you've just become a pawn. And you're just being moved around like a pawn. But don't be a pawn. You're not a pawn. You're not a pawn. You can remain loyal to it. And there's a reason why you even want to leave that state behind. There's a reason why you're leaving it. So when you go back, remind yourself why you left. Remind yourself why you want to remain loyal to something new. And that's how we become things. We don't really know all the answers on how to become it. We don't really know. It's by faith. Complete trust, complete loyalty in your imagination. So I wanted to end that one here on that note of the redemption of sin. And it's not what I was taught as a child. I was taught it was drinking a little bit too much wine at a party. It's not that at all. It's not that at all. Sin is something I do within myself. I'm not who I want to be. I'm not in the state I want to be in. Then I'm sinning. And I need to redeem myself from sin. I need to forgive my sin by becoming the thing I want to be and remaining loyal to it despite all things contrary to it. Even if myself is contrary to it, I ignore myself. I ignore my doubts. I remain loyal to it. So I'm going to end that one here. And just want to say that I appreciate all the support. The book has been doing great. And if you do want to purchase it, it's in the description. I also do one-on-ones. Just email me to get all the information. And I'm going live this Friday for members, January 24th at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, 2:30 p.m. So if you're interested, it's all in the description. But again, see this as a form of continual forgiveness of sin. It's all we're doing. It's an everyday practice. It's an everyday discipline. But remain loyal to yourself, despite everything. Remain loyal.